Good afternoon, this is David Wendell with BushcraftOnFire, and we're pleased to be with you for another video. Today I want to make something that's a Campcraft that's going to help us around the fire, and that's called a Chippewa kitchen. Now, in order to make this, I'm going to use this little handy tool that Corey from Frost CPR sent me. And what this is a 6-in-1 shovel. The first thing I want to do is I've taken and gone out into the woods and gathered some sticks. Nothing major, just about 6-7 foot sticks. And I've already put 1/2 together to save some time. I've just made a lashing up here. This is just a diagonal lash. Then I've cut some notches and made square lashes. Now, because the saw blade on this 6-in-1 tool is a little smaller, I'm also going to use my Corona. That'll just make the job a bit quicker for the video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut here. That's about 6 foot. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So we've got 2 6-foot pieces. We'll just set those aside. 2 6-foot pieces. Now the next thing that we have to do is to put our other tripod on it. So in order to do that, I'm going to get my son Chris to come in and help. He's going to hold this up while I set the tripod on. Is I've cut my first notches in this board, and I'm going to take and put this where I want it, and I'm going to make a couple marks. I'll just do that with my pocket knife. Make a mark about here, and make a mark on this side right about there. I'll go back and cut these notches out, and after I cut those notches out, I'll show you how I chip it away. Alright, so what I've done, I've cut about halfway through, and I'm just going to notch this out with my knife and pull that away. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I just put my Mora on here, just chip that out. Comes out pretty nice and cleanly. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. When we get that one cut, we'll come back with you. I thought what I would do in order to make this easier was to put that first notch together. You can see it's nice and tight. And now what I'm going to do, take a piece of cordage, and I'm going to use what's called a Japanese square lash on this. Just come back from the back, come over with both pieces, and around the back piece, pull it tight. Back the other way. Back up. Pull that nice and tight. Wrap around, and we'll tie it off with just a square knot. And that'll hold this in place nice and tight. Japanese square knot's a pretty good knot to use if you're doing lashing with notches, because it holds very tight. So what we do is come back here, get this in position, measure our second one, and again get my knife out, make a couple little notches. That just shows me where I want these to be, and we'll take and saw that. Okay, so what I'm doing, I'm just coming back in, sawing off this second half. Then I'm going to come back in again with my Mora, and I'm going to chip that out. We'll just clean that up a wee little bit and see how that fits. There we go. I'm going to have to twist this a little bit just to pull it in there, and we'll be able to tie that off. Hit that once or twice with my stick. Then I'll do the same thing with my Japanese square lashing. This time I used a longer piece of cordage. Generally I use about 6 foot. I didn't want to cut this one. This one's about 12 foot, but it'll be alright. Just lash it a couple extra times and stay right in place. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull that tight and tie it off. And what we've done is we've put the kitchen over top of the fire pit, the part that Tam cooks on. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to dig a small hole, and that's where this shovel is going to come in handy. Dig a small hole right around these feet. Doesn't have to be very deep. Just want it about 2 to 3 inches, I guess. And we'll dig that hole out that we can set those feet in. Do the same thing on this side. So I've marked that hole off. I'll move my legs a little bit and go to digging. And when I get those holes dug, I'll be back with you. And what I've done is I've buried these 2 legs down about 3 to 4 inches, and you can see that's a pretty stable little piece. Next step is to take another piece of wood, and I'm going to go ahead, measure that out, and put that right across the top. Now I'm going to cut the edge off here, make it fit a little better. And just set this in here. Now if you want to, you can come back and lash that, make it a little bit stronger, but it's not necessary. This isn't going to go anywhere. It's pretty strong and it's going to stand. Next step we're going to do is to make a table on this half that we can actually cook with coals without getting down into the fire pit. So let's show you how we're going to do that. So what we want to do now is put this table on, and I've cut some logs down. You can see they hang over the edge just a little bit. That's okay. And what I'm going to do is put these logs onto the table. And we're not going to have this go a long way. And these logs don't have to be perfect, because what we're going to do is fix them up in just a minute here. So we'll get them kind of tight, relatively the same height. And I'm going to show you how I did these with another piece of wood and show you what I did. Some I just put on here round, but a couple I've split out. So we'll do that as well. Alright, so what I've done, I've got a piece of hickory here. Got my little hatchet. Just going to put that in there. And I'm going to baton that and see if we can't split that down. We're about halfway through there, so I'll go from the side and keep splitting. Alright, so there we go. And we'll add these 2 pieces over onto our fire pit. Next thing that I want to do is to lash this tabletop down. And what I'm doing, I'm just using some 550. Now out in the bush, you could use some vines, you could use some roots. That would work just as well. Because I have it handy, I'm just going to use a 550 today. And I'm using just a little more than twice the length of what my tabletop is. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, just come around here and I'm going to tie a clove hitch on here. Nothing fancy. And after we get that clove hitch tied down, I'll swing it around so it comes up over my first log. And I'm going to just wrap around each of these logs. Now it helps to move them out of the way first to get them to where you need them. And I'm just coming around and wrapping each one of these on. What that'll do is hold these in place for me for the next step. And you can see why we wanted to use about twice the amount, because we used it all. And I'm just going to come here and tie that off. A couple of half hitches. What I'm doing is I'm getting some clay. We've got some pretty nice clay around here. And I'm just filling this bucket up, I don't know, about 3/4 with the clay. There's a lot of sand in here too, so try and keep the clay and not the sand so much. What we're going to do with this, we're going to make kind of an Adobe mixture that we can put over top of those logs. What that's going to allow us to do is to put hot coals on top of that and actually cook up on the Chippewa kitchen. Now what I'm doing is I've got some grass out of the field, and I'm just laying this grass over top of these logs. And what that's going to do is just give me spacing that clay doesn't fall down through any of the gaps. And that'll hold that in place very nice, so we can come back later after this is set up, trim this off with our knife if we want to, but it's not a big deal. It can sit there like that. Next thing I'm going to do is add a little bit of water. The operative word here is a little bit. You don't want to make this soupy. You just want to get it to stick together a little bit. So I'm going to add some water, stir that up, and get it into a nice thick concrete mortar mud kind of mixture. Now if you wanted this to last a long time, you could add some grasses in here, and that would help it to harden up. And so we're going to do that as we stir this up. We're going to add some grasses, but I want to get it into a consistency first. Alright, now you can see this is a good consistency. It's holding together as a lump. So I'm just going to take and sprinkle some of this grass in, turn it over, and again, that'll give it substance as we, you don't want big long pieces in here. You're trying to make like brick, mortar kind of stuff. And we'll keep turning that. And that's going to be some pretty good stuff right there, I think. Alright, I'm going to clean my hands off, then we'll take you to the next part. Alright, I've taken my lump and I'm putting up here. What I'm doing is just kind of flattening it out, getting this so it's a good base here, semi-level. I'm going to wet it a little bit more. And that'll allow me to work with it. One of the things you can do with this is to wet it over and over. It'll give you a nice smooth edges and different things, but we're not worried necessarily about looks right now. Just getting this thing together. And as this dries, this will dry into a nice hard table that we're able to take and put coals on top of without worrying about burning through the wood. Okay, so got it pretty level. Let me show you the next step. The next thing that I'm doing here is I'm taking and making a small divot in here. Now the reason for that is so that we can put coals in there, and that'll hold the pan. So I'm going to do that twice, and I'm just using an old pan. Okay, and you don't want to go too deep because you don't want to go through your clay. But you can see that's definitely deep enough to hold some coals in. What we'll eventually do, put our coals in there, put our pot on top, and we'll be able to cook with it. But that'll have to dry first, and that's going to take a day or two. Now the shovel that I was using to dig the holes there for the Chippewa kitchen is from Corey out at Frost CPR. It's kind of a unique little shovel. It's got the shovel with the bottle opener on here, but it's got a removable head. So if I remove that head, there's a little saw in here, and that saw cuts small things. It also has an axe head that will go on, and that has a nail pour and a hammer as well. But the axe, the handy little hatchet, let's see here. I just got a piece of elm, and what I want to do is cut off a couple of the extra branches, and I'm going to leave that just like that. And this is going to be a pot holder for us over there on the Chippewa kitchen. So we're going to take a look now and show you how that hooks up. Okay, you remember our little stick from the fire. I'm just going to put that over, wrap it around a couple times to hold it in place. It doesn't go anywhere, which it won't. Tighten it up. Okay, and then we can hang our can from the center over the fire with our water in it. And we can actually adjust that can by turning the stick up a little bit if we want. We can also drag hot coals out of the fire and put here. And then we've got extra space that we can hang things, utensils, pots, pans, whatever, to keep our kitchen in order. The Chippewa kitchen. Kind of a neat invention by the Chippewas. This is David Wendell with Bushcraft on Fire. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon on another video.